Hey guys, I'm Masterofroflness, and we're playing as the Inquisition in the Ultimate Apocalypse mod. Now, I remember in my orc video I did say I wanted to give you guys a multiplayer game of an 8-player free-for-all or a 4v4, but I was feeling a little bit sick, so I just wanted to take a little bit of a break and stuff. Just kind of chill out, drink some fluids and shit. And now that I'm feeling a little bit better, I can only record at like a really late time. What time is it actually? 12 a.m. So I don't think anybody's gonna be up by now to play some Ultimate Apocalypse mod, and I don't think I'm gonna be in a functioning state of mind to actually like talk to anyone into actually playing the Ultimate Apocalypse mod with me. So I'm just pretty much gonna record this AI game. And then the day after this AI game goes up, you'll see the multiplayer game. Hopefully. And the day of recording, I'll probably do a stream or something. So yeah, everything works out. So if you guys come to the stream, you'll probably see a good, like, I don't know, 8 games maybe, possibly? 4, 3, I don't know. It depends on how things go. Let's get a bodyguard upgrade, actually. So yeah, we have a 3 vs 3. You know, we have our Imperial Guard ally here, chilling out. Orcs as well.
Area secure.
So obviously some good stuff can come about with Orcs and Imperial Guard as your allies. Most notably the missile strike. You better not go there, you fuckface, I swear to God. Yeah, you better not, you better not. I will literally kill you. Let's get a 3rd Archivist. As you can pretty much tell, we're kind of struggling to cap all these points and put what are they called? Icon and purifications on them. On delay. Okay. Move you right there. And we can just help out in capping war. Yeah, cap all this.
It is merely a matter of
there we go. The right side. That is the no man's land. Oh shit.
It is merely a matter of faith. It is merely a matter of faith.
You can get it. You can get it.
Command.
Ah, fuck you. There we go. I got it. Let's get 2 units of scholars to just chill out. Build tons of units with them and stuff. That guy. We have a lot of requisition, but obviously once things heat up, it's probably going to go all the way to the dust. The chuck zone, essentially. Man, I think archivists build a little bit slower than regular builders actually. I'm not sure, maybe there's an upgrade to increase that, maybe? No.
Is the time merely a matter of faith.
Alright, scholars, I need you guys.
Faith, and you make them but clever devils.
Get full squad members going and kick some butt. Because I really want to keep this entire area on my side.
Educate men without faith, and you make them but clever devils.
Oh, here they come. Whoa, Inquisition versus Inquisition, what? Oh wow, we missed both times. I suck at this game. Alright, it's okay. Send those guys in. Yeah, stabby, stabby.
It is merely a matter of faith. It is merely a matter of faith.
Educate men without faith, and you make them but clever devils.
I think that guy's a little bit paranoid. I don't know what could also give me that idea. All Inquisition people seem like really paranoid.
These abominations back into the
Alright, I need more plasma generators, come on.
Educate men without faith, and you make them but clever devils.
Kill the Inquisitor Lord, come on.
Area secure.
You never know when you have to kill an Inquisitor Lord. Might be subjugated to some heresy.
Area secure.
He might be, you know, a little bit of a bad guy. You don't know. Be talking to Chaos right now. you know, shit.
As you wish.
Need you to move there. You can probably get the Astra. No, get the vehicle factory.
It is merely a
It
matter of
defeats men
faith.
without faith, and you make them but clever devils.
Now, library. Ah, build speeds. There we go. We can increase it. That's good.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Educate men without faith, and you make them
Got
but
some
clever
acolytes
devils.
going.
The Emperor wills.
And we can probably get those plasma generators. Get all the plasma generators you can, really.
Awaiting your orders. Anchor
It is
points
merely a matter of faith. It is merely a matter of
Get a melter gun.
It is merely a matter of faith.
We can also get some servitors.
It is merely a matter of faith.
As my lord says,
It is
so
merely a
shall it
matter
be.
of faith.
For the Inquisition.
As my lord says, so shall it be.
Get him, get him, get him.
Merely a
As the
matter of
Emperor
faith.
wills. Forget not who we serve.
As my lord says,
It is
so
merely a
shall it
matter
be.
of faith.
As my lord says,
Almost got these
so shall it be.
stormtroopers in a kind of a knot, so to
For
speak.
the Inquisition. Bitter
As my
crippled.
But we're gonna have to back
says,
off.
So shall it be.
Let's get this guy going.
awaiting your orders.
And let's get a Grey Knight teleporter. Now, up in servitors. Go out. A little bit of a bang.
It is merely a matter of faith.
Awaiting your orders.
Tech upgrades.
Awaiting your orders.
What else can we make do with? Let's get some urban territories, actually.
Anchor points awaiting your orders.
We're not using a lot of resources, as you can tell.
As
I'm
my
really
lord
trying
says,
here.
So shall it be.
It is merely a matter of faith.
Awaiting your orders.
Imperial Guard is kicking the Necron's butt. Those Imperial Guardsmen riders, and the Orcs are doing pretty well so far as well. So far, everybody's kind of like winning their sides. It's kind of weird. Okay, I want some Grey Knight Purifiers, probably a
Awaiting
couple
your
of Terminators going.
orders.
Probably the Emperor.
Anchor point selected.
Good little boost in eco. Someone told me I missed the Exterminatus symbol, so I promise I will probably touch that, or maybe I won't. It depends, I suppose.
As my lord says, so shall it be.
Man, weapon servitors are on point. Look at these guys; they look super fucking badass. I don't know if anybody reads the 68 series, but I do, and they remind me of those genetically engineered zombies that fight for the crazy Vietnamese scientist that turns
Awaiting your orders.
people against
Anchor point selected.
the United States. It's pretty cool. Like, he turns them into willing zombies, and it's just awesome.
Awaiting your orders.
68 is one of those like weird series by Image Comics anyway. So I suppose most people don't know about them. Oh god.
As my lord says, so shall it be.
Let's see, psychic. No, psychic shot. We don't need that.
So shall it be. As my lord says, so shall it be. As my lord says, so shall it be.
Move. Go, my Grey Knights, go. Stab them about. Stab them about. Some whirlwinds going. Some more weapon servitors. Advanced weapons.
As my lord says, so shall it be. As my lord says, so shall it be. As my lord says, so
Oh shit. We're losing a lot of forces.
as my lord says, so shall it be.
We need to get out of here, Grey Knights. We need to get out of here. Quick. Need to get those upgrades for psychic abilities.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
As my lord says, so shall it be.
Engage and destroy. Diligence and patience. No blackness will enter our
There we go. With Psychic Inquisition, some really good abilities will be just fine. Little stormtroopers. Fine, stab them. Cleave them about with your cleavers. Yeah, there we go.
As my lord says, so shall it be.
diligence. No
Back out, back out.
will enter our hearts.
Need to get that Thunderfire Cannon pretty soon.
No blackness will enter our hearts.
By his grace, we prevail.
Alright, Terminators is a go. Inquisition upgrade. We can then get the Titanic Mechanicum Tower.
Awaiting your
More open
orders.
territories, I think.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
This is how you play as the Inquisition now.
Fire at will.
Rally together.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Oh shit.
Engage and destroy.
Man, Psychic Quakes are awesome. Holy moly.
Cannot stand before the Emperor. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. As my lord says, so shall it be. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Just trying to get as much shit as possible.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Blackness will enter our hearts.
Man, one of these Grey Knights have taken like a lot of casualties. We've killed like a good amount of forces.
Shall it be.
Get out of there, Grey Knights. Get out.
As my lord says, so shall it be.
Awaiting your orders.
Get the Warhound pretty soon. Oh right, I forgot to get that unit. Hold on a sec. Let me get a unit of scholars to go get that. I mean, I could get that unit, but you guys know what I'm talking about.
Awaiting
Get that
your
relic.
orders.
By his grace, we prevail. By his
We'll
grace,
be able to cleave through them.
by his
No reason why we can't.
prevail.
Forget
By
not
his
who we
grace,
serve.
we prevail. By his grace, we prevail.
As it is written,
By his grace, we prevail.
Yeah, back off behind the weapon servitors because those guys like unleash hell.
Awaiting your orders.
Oh my god, can you guys see this? There's just so many fucking resources we have available. Got some Thunderfire cannons, which is good. Can do a lot of damage actually. And now we have purifiers. That's amazing. Okay, purifiers, you have a lot of melee damage, but we're gonna make you into ranged right now so that you can use your side cannons. Now look at that fucking captain getting wrecked.
Fire at will.
By his grace, we prevail.
Been away. Whirlwinds now.
Awaiting
whirlwind
your
time.
orders.
Get more vehicle factories going.
No blackness will enter our hearts.
Yeah, come on. Let's be honest. Let's be honest here. Who's gonna win? Me or you? It's obviously gonna be me because I got more guys.
Awaiting your inverse grav drive to maximum.
Got more friends.
No precor.
Awaiting your
educate
orders.
men without
The
faith
enemies
and
of
make
man
them but
cannot
clever
stand
devils.
before us. Land Raider
As you can see,
transform as a
Side cannons are sick. We got the Land Raider Phobos. Said it's not something I expected too much of, but you know that's okay. Kill it in like 10 nanoseconds.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Holy shit! Can you guys like kill that? Holy moly!
Man cannot stand before us. The cannot stand before us.
Yeah, going hot, boys. Going hot.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Awaiting your
Believe
orders.
we never got the relics before. That's crazy. Alright, get some more paladins, I suppose. Let's go get the Ordo Malice. I kind of want to wait though. Yo, did you just do what I think you just did? Get over here.
We prevail.
Emperor, protect
No
me from these corruptions.
blackness will enter our hearts.
Don't build him.
The
Wait.
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
No blackness will enter our hearts.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Teleport right in there.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Blackness will enter our hearts.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Cybernetic implants.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Blackness will enter our hearts.
Get out of there, because those Necrons are a little bit, like, serious.
Enter our hearts.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Implants installed. No blackness will enter.
Come on, get him. Get him.
Nothing evades our cleansing fire.
This is an anti-demon weapon, so something that really interests me now.
Cybernetic implants installed.
Chimera transport deployed. Educate men without faith, and you make them but clever devils.
Shall be atoned.
Like how my units just do not give a shit about getting hit over and over and over again. It's absolutely wonderful.
Feel the power of the enemies of man cannot
Yeah,
stand
feel the
before
power
us.
of the Emperor. Here, let me get some demon hammers for you guys.
Fire
We're holding them back so far. Oh shit.
No blackness will enter our hearts.
Yeah, you can get that fool. Little paras. Messing up our
The
style.
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Holy moly. What is happening in the middle and the left side? What the fuck? Okay. Alright. Alright. I will take what the fuck for 400?
Awaiting your orders. Anchor point selected.
The enemies of man
We gotta get out of here.
cannot
Everybody,
stand
we gotta
before
get out of here.
Shrouded in great mystery we were. Cybernetic implants installed.
We just all have to collectively run. This was so unexpected. Like, what?
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Chimera transport deployed.
Butts kicked right now. The left side's just completely gone, and I don't even know what happened to the middle side.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Implants installed.
As the Emperor wills.
The
We were
enemies
doing
of
so
man
good,
cannot
too.
stand before us.
No blackness will enter.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Engage to destroy.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Disengage.
I don't know anymore.
Your orders.
I was really up on the notion that we were winning. Now that we're losing, not sure what to say. Just like, okay. Well, this is happening.
Fire at will.
Engage to destroy.
Awaiting your orders.
The turrets are not as strong as like.
Transport deployed. As you will, my lord.
Oh, what? Alright, just delete that. You guys move out.
By your command. As you will, my lord.
Come on, guys, move.
By your command. As you will, my lord. As you will, my lord. By your command.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Destroy. No
The enemies of
blackness
man
will
cannot
enter
stand
our
before us.
hearts.
Oh
The enemies of man cannot stand before
my
us.
god.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Engage and destroy.
In his name.
Nothing evades our cleansing fire.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
This will enter our hearts.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
For the Emperor and
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Okay, come on, guys. Come on. We gotta try and get as much relics as possible. And you guys have to move out. Oh my god. This is bad.
As you will, my lord.
Just delete the Titan Mechanicum then. Delete it. Shit. Build this. Build this. There we go. There we go.
Awaiting your orders.
The Grey Knight's teleporter right there.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Chimera transport deployed.
There's Ordo Malice, a demigod.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies
We're
of
down,
man
boys.
cannot stand before
I
us.
speak the words of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot
I
stand
speak
before
the
us.
words of the Emperor. Destruction
The
is the
enemies of
eyes
man
of the
cannot
words
stand
of
before
the
us.
Emperor.
Close combat optimizations engaged.
Chimera transport deployed.
Get these guys out. Come on, come on, come on.
The enemies of man cannot stand
The
before
words
us.
of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Sadly, trying to control this battlefield
The
is
enemies of
a
man cannot
bad
stand
idea.
before us.
Us in many forms.
I speak
The
the
enemies
words
of man
of the
cannot
Emperor.
stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man
Come on,
cannot
buddy.
stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Come on, Buster Brown.
The
Hold the
enemies of
line.
man cannot stand
Hold
before us.
the line, boys.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Nothing
Feel the power of
evades
the
our
Emperor.
cleansing fire.
The enemies of man
I
cannot
speak
stand
the
before
words
us.
of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Chimera transport deployed. As you will, my
The
lord.
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Oh my god.
Great mystery.
Oh my god.
Awaiting your orders.
This is the cap.
Fire at will.
We need urban territory to increase the cap.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I speak the
The
words
enemies
of
of
the
man cannot
Emperor.
stand
Chimera
before
transport
us.
deployed.
The words of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Close combat optimizations engaged.
Destroy the homeworld
The
portal.
enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Cybernetic implants.
The enemies of man cannot stand
I
before
speak
us.
the words of the Emperor. I speak the words
The
of
enemies
the
of man
Emperor.
cannot stand
No.
before us.
By his divine
Green
The enemies of
Necron
man
goo
cannot
everywhere.
stand before us.
I don't
The
know
enemies
if we'll
of
be
man
able to
cannot
stop
stand
that,
before
to be
us.
honest. To be frank.
As you awaiting your orders. Anchor point selected.
The enemies of
Okay,
man
instead of
cannot
giving me
stand before
resources, you need to actually
The
contribute.
enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
And the enemies of man
The
can
enemies of
stand
man
before
cannot
us.
stand before us.
Where's Ordo Malice?
The enemies of man cannot stand before
Okay, I'm gonna need an Inquisitor Lord and all those guys. I'll get you.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
None of my guys are being killed off. That's the weird part. Like, my durability is incredible.
Cybernetic
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I mean, Paladins are really strong in this
Man
game.
cannot stand before us.
Nothing evades our
I
cleansing
speak
fire.
the enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Of my authority is down.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Man, the Imperial Guard are so dead. They're mega dead.
Awaiting your orders.
Okay, right. I was gonna increase the squad cap.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I speak the words of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
God, boys, we're so done like a Happy Meal.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
That's the squad increase by fucking 1. Oh my God.
The enemies of man
We're so
cannot
fucked.
stand before us.
I speak the words of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot stand
Destruction is
before
the
us.
Albinger of
The enemies
salvation.
of man cannot stand before us.
They are enough
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Okay. Now
The
with
enemies of man cannot
2.
stand before us.
Count it. 2
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
little fucking Titans. I feel like I would be in
The
a really
enemies
good
of man
position
cannot
right now.
stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Nothing evades our
The enemies of
cleansing
man
fire.
cannot stand before us.
It's literally as if the Necrons have brought upon hell.
Relocating.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Somehow we're pushing through like Eldar and Necron alike with just sheer amounts of fucking units and DACA.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man
And now
cannot
my
stand
units are being
before
killed.
us.
They're brought into a Necron trap.
The enemies of man cannot stand.
The more we dive deeper into the Necron hellhole, the more I realize that we might be fucking roasted. My guys are turning into liquefied acid. What was Malice? Right, we never built him. Right, you. Where is the Exterminatus? That's not the Exterminatus. That's not the Exterminatus. It's a spell of inspiration. Oh, God. I can't find it.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
No blackness will enter
Told you,
our
our
hearts.
goose is cooked. There's only one way to win.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
To charge.
The words
I've no
of the
time
Emperor.
for such things.
Fire
I
at will.
cannot die here. His work undone.
As you will, my lord.
There's only one way to win. Charge at the pyramid, quick!
No blackness will
If I
enter
fail,
our
the doom of mankind is near.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
So, this is how OP Grey Knights are. They can fucking 1v fucking 3.
As you will, my lord.
It's so stupid.
Will, my lord. Transport.
And I love it.
Land Raider armored transport has
I
arrived.
speak the words of the Emperor.
As you will, my lord.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
with a machine gun.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Just fire at that one pyramid. If you destroy the one pyramid,
Fire.
we're fucking
The
gonna do
enemies of man cannot
great for
stand
ourselves,
before
alright?
us.
A hard heart and a strong mind are the foundations of faith.
The void shields, they are down, my lord.
fucking fight.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Fire at will.
Yeah, we need more Grey Knights. A lot more Grey
Hard
Knights.
heart and a strong mind are the foundations of faith.
Yeah, we got no Exterminatus. Oh, there it is. Okay. Requires Inquisitorial Exterminatus mandate.
Awaiting your
Huh.
orders.
Right.
A hard heart and a
Did
strong
I get that
mind
yet?
are the foundations of faith.
Do I need something else?
Well-laid plans are the path to victory.
Part 5.
Founded in great mystery we were.
Oh my god, I'm trying to destroy this as best as possible. But I guess it just has too much health.
The enemies of man cannot stand
Yeah, this is a bad errand.
I speak
Orbital
the
Malice
words
can probably
of
do
the
it.
Emperor.
But that's because Orbital Malice is Orbital Malice.
before us.
Purifiers, get out of there. Oh god, there's so many purifiers that.
Death.
Can we really 1v3?
Founded in great
A
mystery
hard
we
heart
were.
and a strong mind are the
Founded in
foundations of
great
faith.
mystery we were.
What's part 5?
Awaiting
The
your
void shields.
orders.
They are down, my lord.
Okay,
Anchor
you're
point
just gonna have to
selected.
cry it through.
I speak
The
the
enemies of
words.
Oh my
man
god,
cannot
even
stand
Orbital Malice is
before
being
us.
damaged.
I speak the words
The
of
enemies
the
of man
Emperor.
cannot
Damn it,
stand
damn it,
before
damn it. I
us.
didn't want this.
My lord.
I didn't want this. I just wanted a simple video to show you guys. And there's literally hell. I'm trying to figure out what is Inquisitorial mandate. Okay,
Hard heart and a strong
how do you get
mind
that?
are the foundations of faith.
Is it Orbital Malice? It probably is Orbital Malice. Let me check. This is probably, yeah, it's probably him. Oh wait, what? It's probably a. I'm so dumb. It's an upgrade. Okay, and you have to get Orbital Malice. All right, I understand. I understand completely now.
I speak the words.
Do I really understand? I don't know. I don't think so. No, I don't understand. I need to read that again.
Deployed.
Oh, it's an upgrade. Oh, there we go. Now I understand.
Affirmative. Fire at will. Affirmative. Fire
I
at will.
speak the words of the Emperor.
Chimera transport deployed. My lord.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
As you will, my lord.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Okay, so we're literally like pushing it here. I don't know if we'll survive.
The Inquisition has I am prepared.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Get the Exterminatus. Will we even have enough resources for the Exterminatus, though? That's the real question.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Is there a part
The
2?
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Well, put it like this, the Exterminatus, like, tech up is actually pretty darn fast.
Stand before us.
I speak the words of the Emperor.
The Grandmaster's the only reason why we're not dead yet.
The man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Oh, that's... Oh, man.
Fire at will.
5. You want me to get... Okay.
Chimera transport deployed.
Awaiting
Yeah,
your
right. You
orders.
said 5 tiers, right?
Ready for battle.
Resource Trading Center?
Founded
Yep,
in
yep,
great
yep, yep.
mystery we
The enemies of man
There's only one way we can actually win now.
Of the Emperor.
The enemies
Orbital
of
Malice, I
man
need you to
cannot
back
stand
off.
before
Of
us.
the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot
Chimera
stand
transport
before
deployed.
us.
By
The
his
enemies of man
divine will.
cannot stand before
By
us.
his divine will.
The enemies of man cannot stand
They
before
are an
us.
affront.
Oh god, he got that fucking sentry pylon upgrade. That is,
The enemies of man cannot
that's
stand
surprisingly really
before
bad.
us.
Oh, this is so strong. Oh my god,
The
it's
enemies
so
of
awesome.
man cannot stand before us.
But we're so dead. It doesn't even matter. Feed him. Feed the Research Trading Center.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative.
The enemies
Yeah,
of
honestly,
man
I don't
cannot
think I'm a
stand
fan of these
before us.
multi-step endgame weapons, simply because they should be in of themselves like endgame. So you shouldn't have to like get multiple steps in order to reach that endgame. I don't know. That's me though. Like, I'm not a fan of it.
Man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand
I
before us.
speak the words of the Emperor.
I'm just trying to slow them down, but I don't think this is gonna work out. Like, I gotta get 5 tiers of this. That's a little bit
The
excessive.
enemies of man cannot
It's already
stand
expensive
before
as it
us.
is. Yeah, this is a fucking giant Grey Knight battle. Fucking wonderful.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand
They
before
went
us.
through a giant fucking civil war.
I am prepared.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Awaiting your orders. As you wish. Inverse grav drive to your orders.
Can you guys not repair? Who can repair?
I've no time for such things.
Ah, we're dead. Yeah, this most we were dead anyway though.
Cannot be. I cannot die here. His work undone.
Oh, that's
The
weird. It's a
enemies
very
of man
small
cannot
fart
stand
actually.
before us.
God, they have
The
3
enemies
pyramids.
of
Yeah,
man
we're so
cannot
dead.
stand before
I'm just
us.
waiting for that fucking giant
The
laser
enemies of
beam.
man cannot stand before us.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever be able to get like the Exterminatus ability up. It's just it's really something. Takes a while.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
The enemies of man cannot stand.
Oh Lord, can paladins fight?
The enemies of
Oh, this is wonderful. They're fighting the Nightbringer, the fucking enemy paladins. It's just amazing. This is Warhammer 40k right here. Just a giant fucking circle jerk. Party, so to speak.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
What do? All these things are good against like demons. They're not good at. All these upgrades are not good against random Joes. Oh, Ordo Mouse is dead again. I mean, Grandmaster, not Ordo Mouse. Whoopsie daisy.
Divine will.
Or Grandmaster, I need you to back off a little bit.
In great mystery we were.
I think Stormtroopers can repair. No, they can't.
Awaiting your orders. Awaiting your orders.
Founded in
The
great
enemies of
mystery
man
we
cannot
were.
stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand.
Such a giant fucking circle jerk. I don't even understand.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Oh, we need Inquisitor Lord too. Okay. Just to prepare it though.
Chimera
right.
transport deployed.
Let's go ahead and do some of this because our power is on point.
Awaiting your orders. Anchor point selected.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Nothing evades our cleansing
The enemies
fire.
of man cannot stand before
All right,
us.
good. I guess we can go again.
Unequivocal.
But I don't think this is gonna work.
Founded in great
I can already kind of
mystery
tell.
we were.
I mean, 5 tiers. That's too much.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Maybe 3 tiers. Elder Storm. Is this it?
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Oh god, that's a pretty cool ability. No, that's the Imperial Guard EMP, I think. Yeah. Where's the super weapon for the Necrons? I'm a little bit disappointed.
I am ready to pass judgment.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Oh boy. Or Grandmaster, you're up again.
Man cannot stand before us.
Chimera transport deployed.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Fucking only paladins.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Nothing evades
The
our
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Yeah, now you can do it.
Awaiting your orders as you wish.
This is bad.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
I am ready.
Finally it
to pass
works.
judgment.
activating void shield.
Chimera transport deployed.
The enemies of man cannot stand before
Of
us.
the Emperor.
You know, we've held out for so long. Holy, this is incredible. If it wasn't for the fact that like our end game, like sort of like super weapon takes like 5 steps, we would be winning by now.
Fire at will.
The enemies
And
of
now
man
we're dead.
cannot stand before us.
That, my
The
friends,
enemies
is
of
the
man
Eldritch
cannot
Storm.
stand before us.
I don't know if you know about it,
The
but it
enemies
is
of
very
man
powerful.
cannot stand before us.
Chimera transport.
Look at that, sentry pilots from here can fire at us over here.
Founded in great
That's how far this
The enemies
stack
of
up
man
goes.
cannot stand before us.
You know, in this circumstance, I can put sole blame on my allies, because look at this Ordo Malice and all of the. I mean, not Ordo Malice. Why do I keep calling him Ordo Malice? Ordo Malice is this black guy right here, not the Grandmaster. I'm really tired, as you can probably tell. But look at this, fucking the Grandmaster with all the Grey Knights here just chilling out. They've held back 3 armies, not taking any damage, not even breaking a sweat. I love this. It takes all 3 of these factions to fight us.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Chimera transport deployed.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
The words
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies
It's
of
wonderful.
man cannot stand before
Never end.
us.
This battle can't end.
Has arrived. The enemies of man cannot stand before
I don't know what the
us.
Eldar are doing, so that Eldritch Storm is kind of
As you
useless.
will, my lord. Chimera transport deployed.
Awaiting your orders.
Let's see what the 4th tier costs.
Affirmative.
Come the fuck on. How are you able to? How are you able to? What? I'm out of words. How are you even supposed to even get to part 4?
I am prepared.
You can never get an Exterminatus. I mean, I guess that's the point, but I don't know. Feeling pretty salt now. There's no hope.
Awaiting your orders.
Listen, Inquisition. Look at this. Higher up Inquisition members. Look, there's like Necrons and Chaos and Eldar. Well, there's no Chaos this time, but listen, Xeno and Chaos. Is there any difference? No, I don't think so. Get some Demon Hammers. Go Turok mode on them. Wow, these mortals lasted for a long time. Look at these guys go. I'd like to get a close-up zoom on my paladins, but they're just being soaked up in all this like green and red.
the words of the Emperor.
It's literally the fucking apocalypse right now.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Is this one we die?
Primera transport deployed.
None can stand before
I don't know,
the
we're out of
Inquisition.
resources. Maybe I can.
No one will stop us.
I can't really have these guys killed off because then I can't do my fun
I
stuff, my
am
activities.
prepared.
Can't build more urban territories now. So looks like this is the end, bugaboos.
Stand before us.
You fucking fight to the end. Fucking fight to the end. Ah! For the God Emperor of mankind, crush all that stand in your way. The enemies of man cannot stand. They cannot stand before us. Ah! I love the highlighted eyes. Do you see that shit? You can see them sometimes with their like eyeballs. How do you two survive for so long? Uh-oh, spaghetti-o. Oh my god, use your full fucking ability. See, I'm telling you, the fucking AI in this game is very retarded at times.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I speak
Just
the
kill me
words
already.
of the
Man
Emperor.
cannot
I want you to kill me. Why do you think I'm fighting in this glorious battle? Man, how long can I keep this going? And Paladins last so long that I can get like a new batch soon. Grandmaster also like is still alive, which is weird. But I'm tired, so I can't like fucking have the entire video just be the enemies of man cannot stand before us.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Should we come back on the Whirlwind Hyperius?
Before us.
Nah.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative. Fire
The
at
enemies
will.
of man cannot stand before us.
Man, the health and the shields on these guys is amazing.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Affirmative.
The
Fire
enemies
at
of
will.
man cannot stand before us.
I speak the words of the Emperor.
Alright, boys. We're almost out of resources, and then that's it. We're all dong and dongered.
The enemies of man cannot stand.
Fight to your last man.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I really like how this Grandmaster's still in the zone.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of
You know what I think it is? The Wraiths keep resurrecting, and because of that, the Grey Knights keep fighting them. It's like an endless battle.
the enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
That guy was taking a lot of damage.
I speak the
The
words
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
You know, maybe if the Eldritch like storm goes away, we can claim the left side and get some more resources. We don't even have enough for 100. You know what? Never mind. We gotta do some cutbacks. No more Hyperius. No more.
I speak
Necrons, kill me.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Why am I still alive, Necrons? You've had your chance. You have 3 pyramids.
Founded in great mystery.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I mean, I guess you'll never get perfect AI. This is particularly the reason why I want a new multiplayer video.
Awaiting your orders. Anchor point selected.
Affirmative. Fire at will.
Oh god. The Imperial Guardian feeds us.
I speak the words of the Emperor.
But not over here. Ah.
The words of the Emperor.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Is the Arbinger of
The
salvation.
enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
This is a beautiful video.
The enemies of man cannot stand.
This is a beautiful day to be alive.
The enemies of man cannot
What a day indeed. What a fucking day. What a lovely day.
stand before us.
I speak the words of the
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Arbinger
Raider armored
The
transport
enemies
has
of man
arrived.
cannot stand before us.
Crush that puny Necron.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us. The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Oh, fire the Land Raider Redeemer.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us. 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 The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Land Raider armored transport has
Aw.
arrived.
Awaiting your orders.
You know, I haven't built that Titan ever.
As you
The Purifier.
wish. Awaiting your orders.
That's probably a big problem.
As you wish.
We're gonna have to cut back on Grey Knights too, buddy.
Awaiting your orders.
The enemies of man cannot
I
stand
speak
before
the
us.
words of the Emperor.
This might finally be it. They can finally kill me. I'm done. I'm
The
over.
enemies of man cannot stand before us.
But not without sending all these wraiths to hell.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
I speak the words.
I can't even tell what's my units anymore. I mean, I get where the Titans are. Oh my god. Titans, run. It's like a bunch of hands crawling on your foot. No. Okay. Run. Get out of there. Swiggity, swiggity. I'm out of there.
The enemies of man cannot stand before us.
Okay, it's time we end this. It's been fun. But this is going on for too long. The AI is smart enough to kill me. Okay.